Hello everybody, welcome to Distilled, Brewed, and Reviewed. My name is John. I think I found me a new really good distillery. Today we're doing James E Pepper Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey. Here it is. Comes in decanter. Right there. It's nice looking, isn't it? See that decanter? That's the bottle that this came in 1954, if you weren't aware of it. This isn't a new thing. They're going back to 1954. This is how they sold their whiskey, or at least some of it. This is barrel proof, 53.2% alcohol, right? 106.4 proof. They probably put it in the barrel about at 110. It's got a beautiful color to it. So I've been sipping on it. I have been sipping on it. And I have done recently, if you want to check it out, this single barrel. And I really liked it, the pepper single barrel. I went down to the distillery and got it. And so I bought this, and I'm just going to tell you before I get into the review, I'm really liking it. All right, I'm really liking it. So I'm going to pour a little more. I made some notes. Got something unique here I want to talk to you about. I put a little bit. This stuff's good. I'm glad this isn't a rare one because I think I'd be out of it, and then it'd be hard to get another one. So distillery's in Lexington. It's got a cool history. I'm going to go over the flavor. Then I'm going to read to you a little bit about the history. You don't have to be here if you don't want. I'll go over the taste and everything. And I'll tell you who James E. Pepper was, because they say he's a big, famous, iconic man in the bourbon industry. But are you aware who he is or why he's that way? And we'll get over some cool facts. One of the coolest facts is that bottle's from 1954, as far as it's a replica. And it would make a good infinity bottle, in my opinion. But okay, here we go. Now, when I smelled this the first time, okay, like I said, I've been sipping on a little bit. Those of you who know, watch the channel, know that I was in the industry for a long time. Now I've worked in a lot of distilleries. I'm retired now. This smells like, and those of you who've been on bourbon tours will know what I'm talking about. When you go on a bourbon tour and you get that first whiff of bourbon, right? I get it all the time, but you're like, and everybody goes, ooh, and they can smell it. I've never opened a bottle of bourbon. I got hundreds and hundreds. And it smells exactly like the smell of a warehouse, an enclosed warehouse, especially one indoors where they're storing them prior to dumping them. So it's enclosed, no wind or nothing coming through. That smell of that bourbon, or when they are actually dumping it, the barrels inside, is exactly what this smells like. It smells like the inside when they take them from the rick house, which is kind of open air, and they bring them inside, and it's usually enclosed. It's always enclosed, I guess. And they're getting ready to dump them here in a week or so. And so that smells concentrated. That is exactly what this smells like. And it brought me right back to work, really. So I love it. Let's get into the taste. It's got a beautiful color to it, by the way. This is mostly between 5 and 6 year old bourbon. Now, the mash bill on this one is undisclosed. Matter of fact, I think it's several mash bills, but I could tell you that it's, of course, corn, like most of them, corn, barley, and malted, corn, rye, and malted barley, but it also has malted rye. That's what's thrown. So it's rye, malted barley, and corn, right? A little bit of a twist to it. So nice color to it. I love that smell. Let's get into this taste. First thing is it's sweet. So when you get into it, it's not just sweet like sugar. It's got a little more depth and flavor and thickness to it. I would say honey sweet. It also reminds me very much of a caramella or whatever it is. The caramel candy with the vanilla center. So you're getting that sweet honey, caramel, and the vanilla on that. There is an oak. There is an oak presence, like you're smelling at that distillery. That oak is it's interesting, because usually oak, the wood will have tannins, right? So it puts it all in red wine. But this one is like a sweet, like they took the oak and soaked it in bourbon. No pun intended. Like they took it and soaked it in honey. So that you got the oak without the bitterness. So it's kind of like a sweet oak stick, which is odd. And I'm not getting that bitterness. I've not really had this much oak taste without the bitterness, which a lot of people might say is walnuts or almonds. I'm getting just the sweetness. Very sweet. So vanilla. And then there is a mocha note in there. And I've been trying to dig out a citrus thing out of this. And sometimes I get it, sometimes I don't. So I don't know if I've kind of talked myself into it. But if it is, it's not prominent because I can't. Every time I taste, I don't necessarily get it. I'm going to put some water in here. I'm out of Kentucky. This is in Lexington, Kentucky. So I'm basically putting in the water that's in here. All right. If it makes it any sweeter, which a lot of times water will do, it's going to be a candy bomb. It's not as much as the distillery smell, you know. And by the way, there's very little to no burn on this for the proof. Drink the whole bottle, you put a little water in it. Tone down the wood is what it did. This is good. Pepper's doing a good job. Now, that's it for the review. You may leave. I hope you don't. Because I would like to go over some facts about it. Like I say, you don't have to stay. I suggest you go. I haven't done a tour here yet. I'm going to. But I've been to the distillery several occasions. James E Pepper, an American whiskey brand. The brand is named after an historic American whiskey maker with that name, who built and operated a distillery in Lexington, Kentucky. Excuse me. It's about 70 miles from where I am located in Louisville. Let me see. He marketed his whiskey under his family's name, Old Pepper, and under his own name. Okay, I got that. The brand's distillery known as the Henry Clay Distillery, and later as the Old Pepper Distillery, and James E Pepper Distillery was shut down in 1958 and was left abandoned for more than 50 years, all right, until it was reopened again in 2008, and they started distilling their own stuff in 2017. 7 years ago, they now have all their own stuff. The Henry Clay, I want to point out, was from Lexington, or Henry, and he's got a hell of a house if you can ever tour it in Lexington. There's it's very close to this. It's a great tour. I usually don't, but it's historic. It's a beautiful tour. The guy ran for president. It's so damn interesting. I love that house. I'm just throwing that out there. And right close to this, walking distance, is Abraham Lincoln's wife, her home that she grew up in. So that's a little bit about that. Now, James E. Pepper was born May 10th, 1850, and died in 1906. Master distiller and Kentucky colonel. Was a bourbon industrialist and flamboyant promoter of his family brand. He was the third generation to produce Old Pepper whiskey, the oldest and best brand of whiskey made in Kentucky. That's him. Founded in 1780 during the American Revolution. He claimed that his distillery, the Old Pepper Distillery in Lexington, Kentucky, was the oldest in the United States and the largest in the world, and that it made the best whiskey in the United States. Again, that's him. An avid and noted horseman. Pepper operated one of the most regarded stables in Kentucky and paid at the time the highest amount ever paid per acre of bluegrass horse farm, and that has to be a boatload, buddy, because that's today, that, and for as far as I've known it, that's some of the most expensive real estate in the country. And he paid a lot. I don't know what the hell he paid, but he paid a lot. His thoroughbreds competed in the Kentucky Derby and various other races across the United States and throughout Europe. He traveled in an ornate private rail car named the Old Pepper, painted with images of his famed whiskey label, and he spent a considerable amount of time in Manhattan, where he would travel and promote his brand. Pepper was a staunch advocate for his whiskey business. He was a vocal opponent of the infamous Whiskey Trust of the 1890s. In 1890, he got the state of Kentucky to change its laws. So see, he's this guy, so that he could bottle his own whiskey. This is going to get interesting. I read this. So he could bottle his own whiskey at the distillery, right? Now, listen, before the changes in the law, distillers could only sell their whiskey by the barrel, all right? By the barrel. and their product was bottled, it was because whoever purchased the barrel from the distillery did the bottling. Now, I thought Old Forester was the first one to bottle, right? That's what they'll tell you. Well, let's see what this says. This says the Old Forester brand had earlier introduced the idea of selling a whiskey brand only in bottles, but the Old Forester brand was produced by a rectifier rather than a distiller. Rectifiers were modern-day blenders, like people who today open it like them before they start getting their own stuff back again. They sourced it. They sourced it from Bardstown Distilling Company. They sourced it from MGP. Finally, they have their own stuff now. But before that, because it takes at least 4 years, right, to start producing your stuff to bottle it if you're smart, you got to source it. That's what a rectifier did. They would buy whiskey from people, and then they would rectify it. They would make it better. They would age it longer. They would add things. This is long before a lot of the rules for modern bourbon. They would add fruit juice and molasses and different things like that to make it better. Some of them actually added a lot of bad things to it, right? And really bad things that were poisonous, and is one of the reasons why the Bottled and Bond Act. But that's a whole thing that I'm not going to get into here because I'm just going to read you this. Just that reminded me that I want to throw that out there. I didn't know about the Old Forester and him thing. I'll have to look into that a little more. He introduced the idea of a strip stamp. This is also cool. So here's a strip stamp, right? We all know what they are, right? Strip stamp right here. Goes across the top. Goes across the cork, sealing the bottle. He then advertised that if the signature was damaged, the consumer should be wary of purchasing the bottle because someone may have tampered with the whiskey, and it may not contain real pepper whiskey. The strip became popular, and the government used the idea when they passed the Bottled and Bond Act of 1897. That was all about ensuring that the whiskey was of a certain quality, the Bottled and Bond Act. He was a little ahead of his time. So the brand's distillery site originally became a distillery in the 1800s and was known as the I already read that. So we're all right. So you know what? I'm gonna leave it there. There's a lot of other stuff here, but I'm not gonna bore you. He was a very interesting man, and he apparently he was a pretty cool pioneer. This is a cool place. It's on like 25 acres in Lexington. There's 3 distilleries in that area where this is. There's a coffee shop. There's several restaurants. There's a cool bar. There's actually 2, but I've only been to 1. There's a place that makes cider. There's a brewery all right there, and there's a lot of cool stuff right around there, all right, as far as breweries and other distilleries. So if you get there, Manchester Street. Anyway, I'm a little excited about, so I'm going to get my 3rd bottle of pepper. I'll see if they have any rye. I'm interested to try that. And I'm going to keep buying bottles of their stuff until, which time, maybe I don't like one. I won't stop buying them, then I'll just buy something else. I'll let you know. But in the meantime, I've had 2 of them. I have the other review of the single barrel, and both of them have really surprised me, and I'm really enjoying them. So if you're still here, thank you. Check out my playlist. The first comment here will be pinned. I will have a link to the playlist, my bourbon playlist, and check out my other playlists because I got a lot of cool stuff on the channel. Anyway, hope you sub, hope you share, hope you do everything that makes me happy. I'll see you on the next one.